So, I mean, I'm obviously represented because I am those things, but I think potentially males are kind of missed out on with research, and people of colour also. Yeah, because it says here, what are the unanswered questions in MS? It's like literally everything, pretty much.
And like my friend RuPaul says, do fuck it up.
Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of MSers React. Today we're going to be reacting to MS Science and Research. Let's go.
So the first one is a poll from Shift.ms community. We asked, not we, the people who work for Shift.ms, do MSers feel represented in the development of MS research? And there's a really high 82% that said no and 18% that said yes. Wow. What do you guys think?
Well, I don't know how they got those numbers because that surprises me. I don't know.
It's super high. I mean, I don't really know a lot about the research, but I kind of, from what I do see, it is like genuine and it's not like Mr. Burns collecting money.
Yeah, I think, if I'm honest, what we had talked about in the past is having MS can be pretty exhausting. And I think you have to go through stages where you deal with it with yourself, you deal with it as a whole, you deal with it as a community, and then you can venture into, okay, now how do I fix this big unknown problem, right? So I personally don't look into recent updates consistently about the research that's going on, because I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but very often I'll read a very hopeful title or something like that where they're like, discover a disease in rats that has correlations to MS that could lead to a potential cure, and it will get me all excited, and then as research goes, it's such a long-term process, nothing really happens. Kind of the way that I view research is, if you got something big and it's gonna affect my day-to-day life, I'm happy to hear. If not, I'll donate when I can, kind of thing. That's where I kind of stand.
Kind of like, is it just like get everyone's attention, put a heading out there, and then there's no actual like follow on to say, oh yeah, we've actually looked and there's this. So I think it is a bit tricky to say whether what's genuine, what's not, and how well represented we are.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, to be fair. I think you're only going to look into the research you want to look into, so it's going to be relevant for you. But if it's not relevant to you at the time, then, you know, are you being represented? Probably not, because it's not relevant to you. So it's such a broad question to ask, Shift.ms. You've got to narrow it down a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way I took it, like where it says, do you feel like MS research is inclusive? Do you feel represented in the in development of research? Well, I would take that as yes, because it's mostly done, I don't know, it's kind of like pigeonholed as a white girl's illness. When actually, so I mean, I'm obviously represented because I am those things, but I think potentially males are kind of missed out on with research, and people of colour also, because when I was diagnosed, I was told, you know, it's generally white women that get it. And I've learned over the last 3.5 years that is absolutely so far from the truth, but they still say that. Like, why do they say that? That's so weird, because it's not accurate at all. So I do think there are, you know, groups of people that are completely missed out of, you know, up-and-coming research, etc. I know that this is something that Roxy feels very strongly about. She talks about that quite a lot. But I mean, that's what I took from it. So I mean, yes, I do feel represented, but do I think certain other people are represented? Probably not.
And also, I think along with that diversity in ethnicity and gender, there's also with severity of disease. So a lot of the research can be kind of focused, at least from what I've been reading, there is some Hail Mary research about people who have experienced much more disability with MS. And then there's a lot of research focused on, okay, these people are a little bit affected. How do we get them back? Or how do we prevent this from happening in the future? So I think sometimes when you have research coming out that can potentially prevent future disability, there are a lot of MSers that maybe have already experienced that kind of disability, like Dave, that you might know, that you're like, okay, well, that's great, but where was this before? Or that, do you know what I'm saying there?
Yeah, I completely agree, actually, to be fair. Like, I feel like a lot of things that I hear are kind of for like newly diagnosed people that are right at the start of their MS journey, when actually, you know, for someone, for example, like myself, you know, it's been however many years, my disease progression is sort of wherever it is, and sometimes maybe that doesn't necessarily apply to me. But that is, that's something I have sort of noticed as well.
I feel as a father who, you know, MS is, they're more likely to get it because of this non-genetic disease. I feel that I would rather than put the research in for new patients, so like when someone new was to get it, they could kind of squash it there. I mean, I've lived with it for quite a few years now, but I think the worst thing that I could ever envision is my children getting it. So if they put the research in and said, like, look, in 10 years we're gonna boom do this, that would be what is relevant to me, I guess. But hey, everyone's different, you know.
That point about everyone is different, I think that's a really good summary. It's hard to represent everyone in MS research because MS is not a small pinhole, right? It spans genders, ages, everything. It's unknown, and so I think it would be very difficult for research to represent everyone, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't try.
I do think as well they focus a lot on relapsing remitting MS. Like, that is something I've noticed. All of the kind of stuff that's put out is sort of mostly directed at people with relapsing remitting, and maybe secondary progressive, primary progressive, there isn't as much done on that. And that's something I've actually seen in like support groups and stuff. People saying like they don't feel there's enough out there for those people. But obviously, I mean, I'm in the group of relapsing remitting, so, you know, I get all the research that is suited to me, but I can imagine the frustration of other people with MS that have different types of MS that aren't as represented as we are. I know, Dave, obviously you have secondary progressive.
We need to role play here. I feel like Kat needs to be the doctor and Sarah needs to be the person, the me. I feel like that's the best way to represent this picture.
Okay. Kat, whenever you're ready.
5 years ago, we would not be able to treat your disease.
Wow, that's crazy.
Today we still can't. Lol.
Kat, that was fantastic. One take.
Mm-hmm.
One take's all it take. I suppose that goes back to the first one, like what Tia just said. You know, they have a little breakthrough and then they stop.
Yeah, I just kind of feel like they could maybe put more out there than they do, and obviously, yeah, a cure would be lovely at some point. But like, how far are they actually getting? Obviously, treatments have come such a long way, but
I feel like for years they've been saying we're so close.
Yeah,
we're so close.
yeah,
But
exactly. That's the point.
they say that about every disease they're trying to cure.
Yeah.
That we're so close. They're so close. Do you guys feel that research should be focused on separate areas of MS, kind of like either symptoms or different parts of the, you know, the neural system, or should it be just focused on getting a cure? What do you guys think of that?
I want to know what MS is.
Yeah, that's the thing, because all they say is that you can't be a blood donor and you can't be an organ donor because we don't know if this might be harmful to you or someone else. Like, you don't even know whether someone else having my blood could cause a problem. Like, I feel like this is something quite, it probably is more difficult than it seems, but surely that's one of the first things you should try and look into, right? Because I'd go and donate blood, but I'm not allowed.
It would be nice to know how we
What it
all
is,
we all got it.
I imagine that probably wouldn't be hurtful information to finding out how to fix it, right? Knowing what it is and how it operates might be telling. So I don't doubt that they are not also researching that.
Yeah, I mean, I've got more of an idea that, you know, it's in my family, so I can kind of guess that it was passed down to me. But for people who haven't got it in the family, which is all of you guys, right?
I'm the first one in my family, so...
I had an uncle and aunt too.
Oh, you had an uncle?
I have my uncle who just told me, he goes, oh yeah, I had that before. And I'm like, you had that? And he goes, yeah.
Did he cure it?
He had a lazy eye for a year and wore a patch, and that went away. And so he's the kind of guy who goes, nah.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
But then
gosh.
also my great aunt had it as well. She fell and broke her arm and then had her first flare in her 60s.
Right, okay, cool. Not cool.
So
Not cool.
people in the family.
Yeah, I'm the same. Uncle and grandmother has it, or had it, not anymore. They cured it when they died.
That's the only way we can really cure it, you guys. Pass it on.
Kat, are you the only one in your family that you know about who's got it?
Yeah, I mean, my auntie has like undiagnosed neurological problems, and my grandma thinks that it could be MS, but she also has epilepsy, other sort of neurological things as well. So, and they've never ever given her like a diagnosis of MS. Because they kept saying, like, you know, is there anyone in your family with MS? Like when I went to hospital with one of my relapses, and I was like, no, and just didn't really think anything of it. But I do think there is definitely, like you said, Dave, obviously a link in families, but they claim that there isn't. So, I mean, that would be interesting for them to do more research on that and see kind of how that works. And
yeah, totally agree with that. That would be quite interesting to find out.
But then it's like, if no one in my family's ever even had symptoms, so like there's no chance anyone in my family has it, it's like, well, what happened to me that caused it? Because there's obviously loads of research to say that if you had like trauma as a child or like lots of stress, then obviously it can like trigger something. But it's like, well, or like, was it these lymph node infections was actually the Epstein-Barr, and then that's actually what happened? But again, that's research that hasn't been finished, so we just don't know.
yeah, because it says here, what are the unanswered questions in MS? It's like literally everything, pretty much. Like
so many things. But it is the overall question of like, what actually is MS? Because there's so many symptoms that normal people do get. Like forgetfulness, sometimes people just have that. So it's like very hard, and it's like headaches, it's like, oh, like, do I just have a headache, or is this like, and that's one thing I definitely struggle with. It's like, I don't actually know like what is actually MS half the time. Like, am I tired just because I've had a really long week, or am I fatigued because of this? Like, I just find MS impossible. I just act like a normal person, because I'm like, well, I'm tired, normal people get tired, I've got a headache, normal people get that, and I just...
You are normal, Tia. You are normal to me.
Well, what is normal?
Yeah.
Who can do the best Australian accent?
probably me. This is my time to shine. It's going to be really bad. Australian researchers find potential cure for multiple sclerosis. Australian researchers have found, have found a potential cure for people living with multiple sclerosis. The breakthrough was discovered in a drug that was previously used for another genetic illness. What does that say? Monash University reportedly needs $2 million to get human trials underway.
So this is a pretty clickbaity title. This is not uncommon, right? To see these. We might have found it, you guys. We do this every 2 years, but maybe this time we found it. How do you guys feel about that?
That would pull you right in, that title there. Researchers find a potential cure.
I just kind of ignore headlines like this.
I do ignore them. I don't click on them, I just see it and I'm like, well, I'll wait and see if anything comes of that later. And then it never does.
You always get the family member who sends you stuff like this.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah,
my dad
okay.
emails me everything and I'm like, cool, yeah. It's not happening.
Were you guys like that at the very beginning? Like when you first were diagnosed? How did you feel the first time you saw an article like this?
I think I was the same.
I think it's just been the same.
I think in 2014, 15, like Facebook was quite fresh for me and stuff. So, and my wife was on Facebook quite fresh, and she was literally sharing and tagging everything we saw about MS to me. And to be honest, I think that kind of put me off reading anything else about MS, because there was so much contradictions with everything. Like, you know, this person's found this, but this person's found this, but it's not going to work because this. I was like, oh God, just tell me when it's legit.
Do you know how you know if something's worth looking at and taking seriously? If it's done in rats, you can pretty much just discount it, because at the end of the day, we are not rats. So actually, it might be great that the rats have had their MS cured or had their, you know, like disease progression reversed. Yeah, amazing. And like that does give some insight into the kind of mechanics and what's going on. But actually, we are not rodents. So, and that was something I was always taught, is to take things like that with a pinch of salt. And actually, yeah, it's interesting, and it is interesting to read and learn about. But that's one thing I was going to say about this, the headline we just read, is that it was discovered in a drug that was used for another genetic illness. So that does mean that it's actually shown promising signs in actual human beings, which is a good thing. So actually, reading that, I would be like, oh, that's, you know, quite interesting. But if it was like, oh, in like, you know, the rats we had in the lab, I'd be like, no, I wouldn't even really bother. Like, other than...
It's still so many steps away from anything that could be helpful to us yet, yeah.
How many rats do you see in wheelchairs? I don't see any.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't seen any either.
Not represented in the rat community.
True. Disgusting.
Do you guys know any sites that you can keep going back to for legit research?
Yeah, PubMed is good. But again, it's just looking at, you just have to act like not take it as it is. Like, you kind of have to look who's done the research, you know, is there, like, I wish I had my little list of like...
Yeah, there's so many factors about the long term of the data that they collected. How many subjects were you know, there's like, if it was done on 2 people and like, we found a correlation, it's like, well, what's the likelihood that that would be large scale for everyone? It's exhausting. And the other thing is that I have a background in chemistry, and with my dentistry degree, I am lucky to be able to kind of decipher some of these MBCI articles or PubMed articles. As a layman's term, if you come in trying to read these, okay, these are the articles I'm supposed to actually be getting information from, they can be like a different language to people. And so sometimes you need those format of the clickbaity articles that tell you very blankly, like, okay, we found a correlation in rats and it could lead to something, but it doesn't give you any information. There could be information out there, but it's not made very accessible to the average person with MS.
Yeah, I mean, I guess with this one being a Sky News...
Yeah, I mean, I don't really trust media anyway, like, so, yeah, just sort of, I'll read them, do you know what I mean? Like, because obviously I'm interested, but...
I'd read it if it was in a meme.
5 seconds tops.
yeah, you have my attention for that time. So in True Nature, after I said I like GIFs, there's GIF. So trying to make sense of medical language with MS. And you just touched on it, so obviously being from a chemistry background, you kind of know a little bit more than the average Dave.
Yes, exactly. The average. Yeah, it can be extremely time consuming if you have knowledge of MS medical language to read through an entire research article and try to discern, okay, what is even pertinent to me? On top of that, if you have to stop every middle of the sentence to look up a new word and what it means towards you, it is a huge deterrent from looking into MS research in general. So on top of it being like, I'm kind of lost in my disease. We don't know what's happening. I don't have much hope. This is an article that can give me hope, and it's literally in a different language. So not only do I not feel like I understand what's going on with my disease, I don't feel like I am capable of understanding. I feel like I have to do so much work to learn the language to get an idea of what's happening. And that is on top of all the other exhausting things with this fatigue-filled disease and additional exhaustion.
Yeah, they kind of need to dumb it down a bit, I guess, for everyone to understand, because, you know, when like you say, when you pick up an article and they talk about loads of different things, I know I'd put it down and I'd wait for a video to come out or something, or a GIF.
Well, that's the strange thing, though, is that also in the research field, in order to be taken seriously, you have to present your research in this professional, medical jargon-filled way. So in order for a study to be considered viable and, like pertinent to the disease, in the research field, they kind of, there's like a norm where they have to do this. They have to present it in a way that makes them sound like this.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite hard to make sense of a lot of it, to be honest.
I think it goes back to the last question we just answered about the Sky News review. I mean, they've dumbed that down to complete dumbest, you know. They said they've got a cure of it. We need something kind of in the middle from, you know, the research they present and the dumb articles.
Probably done with a little bit more substance, because the Sky News article left you with a lot of, okay, well, what is it? What does that mean?
Yeah.
And then you go, well, if you want to learn more, look at this paper. And then you go, whoa, what does that mean?
Yeah, mine are the exact same. Like some of the things I've read, I just look at things and I'm like, yeah, that's just gone like way over my head. Maybe when they have like the technical word, they could do like a little bracket of like, this is what this means, so that we're not having to like constantly go back and forth to like research the technical words.
If you guys had to ask a question about the research to one of the researchers, what would you ask?
I guess a little bit more specifics about how they're searching for a cure. Because they kept just saying, we're searching. But I'm like, what are you looking at? Are you looking at a protein that causes it? Are you looking at, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I would do with that information. Like, if I did know that, I'm not sure I would sleep any better at nighttime. But
it'd be a big list, but I guess it'd be nice to know where they've looked and where they failed to find something.
What I was going to say was, it's like at the end of the day, like clinical trials and like sort of research papers are not written for patients. So it would be nice actually if like, I don't know, like neuros or like your MS team almost like summarised it and did a kind of like ongoing update of the kind of important stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, because, the scientists, their job is not to explain it to us. Like, the papers aren't written for patients, they're written for other scientists and neuros, potentially. I don't know.
So this next one here is a forum post on Shift.ms. Clinical trials. Has anyone been on clinical trials before? How was it? How many times did you travel to and from the research lab or clinic? How was the protocol? Was it muddled with red tape or was it just straightforward?
Interesting. Kat, you said you were part of a trial.
Yeah, well, it wasn't like trying new medication or anything like that. It's literally just kind of feedback. But actually answering the questions, it was like some of them I just didn't even really feel overly relevant, and I didn't really know how to answer them. So I answered, but like I say, I just felt like the data just, I mean, it will give like, kind of overall view, but I just don't feel like it's going to be that accurate, really. No offense to the people that are doing it.
In terms of like drug clinical trial, I don't think we've ever been a part of that. But maybe some people watching have been. If you guys have ever been part of a clinical trial, feel free to comment down below. Tell us what you experienced.
Yeah, how would you guys feel about doing that, like taking a new drug? Because for me, the thing that would worry me the most, because obviously they do placebo as well. So I wouldn't want to not be on a DMD, if that makes sense. So if they were like, here's this miracle DMD, but actually I was in the placebo group, I wouldn't feel comfortable.
Just unmedicated. Yeah, that's hard. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
See, it's really weird because when I got given the list of like different drugs I could take, and when I sort of went back to discuss my options and I said, we're considering this, I was strongly advised against it because of my age. Because they were like, well, you have to have like this before you can even go on it, like all this blood work, all these like scans and stuff before you can even go on it. But then because it's such a new drug and you're so young, we don't want to risk it. So it's like, would I not get looked at for a clinical trial again because of my age? Because people that are young, that obviously I'm 24 and I was 21 back then, but like young people do need to have, we do need to be in the trials.
If you could tell the MS research and science community one thing, what would it be?
I would say to the research and science community, have a nice day. In this chat, we spoke about how we don't know what they're doing, but they're obviously doing things to move on the progress of MS. Keep up doing what you're doing, and like my friend RuPaul says, don't fuck it up.
Don't it up.
I feel like you need to watch RuPaul to get that.
I don't think so. I think you just transported everyone there.
Oh, cool.
I think that what I would love to say to the research community is on a similar note. I think a lot of the time people's frustration with the unknown of MS can be taken out on the person that's supposed to give you answers, right? But sometimes that's misconstrued as the researchers are kind of like sitting in their labs twiddling their thumbs and not taking us seriously, when I assume that researchers are just as frustrated that there is not a very obvious or direction or path that can lead to a significant diagnosis or outcomes of the research. If I was put into a room and someone said, okay, this person's body is attacking their nerves in their brain and the spinal cord, And this person, they all look different. They all are from different places, something to do with vitamin D, and it may or may not be in the family. What is it? Just figure it out. You have this person, figure it out. I have no idea where I would start. That task of trying to figure out why something is going wrong in all of this body is a very daunting task. I am so grateful for the hours and the funding that is put into trying to find an answer to some of these things that are going wrong in my body. It is so difficult to not find anger in the fact that I don't have answers. I'm really grateful that someone's even looking, because I don't know how to do that. So thank you very much for continuing to try to find answers to something that we all struggle with every day.
Yeah, well put, well said. Beats my RuPaul comment. So.
I don't think it does. Hold on. And don't fuck it up.
Oh man, you did the eyebrow and eyelash and everything.
They're supposed to be glasses. I have to take off my eyelash.
I thought you were taking your eyelashes off. I love RuPaul. Tia, what would you say to the MS researchers?
Yeah, I mean, similar, but I think it would just be, like we've all said, like, it would be great if it was more accessible, because I think probably 90% of the research that I have found is literally because it's like popped up on Facebook from like a media outlet, which is, you know, don't trust what you read on Facebook. And then it's just stuff that my dad's like seen on BBC News and emailed me. So it's just like making it more accessible and, like we said, dumbing it down a little bit so it's not all these medical terms that we're never going to know what they mean. And yeah, it would just be nice to know when, you know, things like this are funded. It would be nice so that we can almost feel included, to know like where that funding is going, what it's doing. You know, if there's been a new clinical trial, to have like, okay, this is what we're starting, and then 6 months, 2 years down the line, you can say, okay, well, you know, we've closed this one because this is what we found and it's not, you know, worth continuing. I think that's what I'd like to know more about.
I think talking to patients as well. Like, I know obviously it's not going to, you know, it's not data, but actually I think, yeah, you can have data and like, you know, blood work or, you know, scans and all this kind of stuff. But I think taking information from patients' actual personal experience might actually help. You know, like someone's like anecdotal experience might make it someone in the sort of research and science community be like, hang on a minute. And then they can then look into it a little bit further.
Yeah, so I suppose get out to the community more.
Yeah, just speak to us.
Do stuff like this more. Sponsor more videos.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Please sponsor.
So, because that's a important way to connect with MSers is one way is to sponsor content like this that shares like a bridge that we can talk to each other.
Thanks so much for watching.
And if you're new to this channel, we have an entire MS digital community over at www.Shift.ms. So come over and say hi.
And remember to like and subscribe.
And let us know what your thoughts are in the comments below.
And a big thank you today to Biogen for sponsoring today's video.
See you in the next video. Bye.
Bye.